Hi, I'm Esma Hamid of the Mommy Reset Clinic, and welcome to the Mommy Reset podcast. This is a space for moms 35 years and beyond where we talk honestly about wellness, career, motherhood, and everything in between. The years between postpartum and perimenopause are full, they are complex, and you deserve to thrive through all of it. I'm so glad you're here. Hello, welcome to the Mommy Reset. This is a space for moms 35 plus who are juggling, raising little kids, careers, family, everything in between. I started this podcast because I wanted to connect with other mothers who are on the same journey as myself. So I became a mother in my late 30s, and the first input I got about that was from the medical establishment, putting me in the category of advanced maternal age. And naturally, there's a lot of anxiety, some fear, and some trepidation that comes with that medical label. It's always been a dream of mine to become a mom, and I'm very blessed to have become a mother. And in that journey, I have learned that there is no perfect time. Everyone's timeline is different. And I learned that there is also lots of positive that is associated with being advanced maternal age or starting a family a little bit later than the typical timeline. Although there is no typical timeline nowadays, everyone's timeline has shifted. More moms are starting families, more parents are becoming parents in their 30s for the first time, in their 40s for the first time, in their 50s for the first time. And so we find ourselves a little bit in uncharted territory. We find that we have already established identities. A lot of us have established careers, and we have the challenge of integrating motherhood, parenthood into an existing life. And there is a lot of positive that comes from knowing who you are before being responsible for somebody else. There are a lot of life experiences that can then inform our journeys as parents. There are a lot of things that we can gain from having families later in life. So I invite you to follow me on this journey where I speak to mothers in different professional settings, mothers who are from different backgrounds, mothers who are all trying to navigate this journey, trying to balance, trying to make time for self-care, trying to be active in their families as well as be active socially and politically and economically, and how that looks for each of us. And for me, I decided to start a clinic. I am by background a clinician, so I have started the Mommy Reset Clinic. And what that is basically a program where I lead mothers to understand the hormonal changes that happen postpartum. Postpartum is not only 3 months, it's not only 6 months, it can last for many, many years. And a lot of people are now recognizing signs and symptoms of depletion. In essence, an extension of physical, emotional, and mental burnout that can sometimes happen. There's so many reasons for this, being that in our society, we're already depleted, we're already deficient in a lot of nutrients. And so postpartum depletion can manifest in different ways. So the program is to support women nutritionally with counseling to identify what they need to feel whole again. I work with mothers who are 3 months postpartum up to 10 years postpartum. There is really no cutoff. It all depends on what you feel as a mom. Another area that I'm starting to focus on is the intersection between postpartum and perimenopause. Going back to the fact that a lot of women are continuing to have babies into their late 30s and their 40s and sometimes their 50s, they're struggling with postpartum depletion as well as perimenopausal symptoms and the onset of menopause. So I want to have an honest conversation about what it means to be a mother over the age of 35 who is juggling a lot. What are some strategies, what are some habits, and what are some routines that we can enact for ourselves in order to feel more whole, to feel more grounded? For myself, I've come up with the Mommy Reset framework, and the first pillar of that is going to be remove. So basically, life is overwhelming. Things pile up, whether they're thoughts or feeling negative influences. And so as I was contemplating on how do I best counsel my patients, how do I give them a framework to quote unquote reset their lives as mothers, the first thing I came up with is removing. And so removing is going to be removing everything that does not serve, everything that weighs us down. And that can be different things at different times of our life or our day. And so I ask you to contemplate on what needs to go before you start adding things that you need to do. So what are things that are no longer serving you? What are ways of thinking? It could be people pleasing. It could be digital overload or being too attached to electronics. It could be physical clutter, which is something that I still struggle with. The visual noise, so to speak, of having all kinds of things being scattered everywhere. It could be foods that we need to remove, inflammatory foods. It could be habits. So all those things can be areas that we focus on when we try to remove what's unnecessary from our lives. And, sometimes it's removing expectation. Like lately I've been reflecting on this a lot. What I want to do sometimes on my free days is a lot of things. And I've been just accepting that really, I want to remove that expectation, that extra burden of I have to fill my free time with chores. So that is an important thing to reflect on in the journey to self-care. Another thing is, how do we nourish ourselves? What is nourishing to us? It could be certain people that are draining that we want to remove, and certain people that are nourishing that we want to spend, those social connections that we want to nurture and incorporate more of into our lives. It could be nature for a lot of people, just a calming presence of houseplants maybe, or a routine of an evening walk or a hike, or something that keeps us connected to the natural and the physical world around us. And of course, lowering our cortisol, and that has other downstream effects on our health and well-being, mental, physical, and emotional. Nourishing ourselves is, of course, foods as well. But, it doesn't matter how clean the diet is or how nutritious it is, if we are saddled down by negativity, by anxiety, by negative thoughts, our bodies are not going to benefit from that. And those are some of the concepts from functional medicine that I have learned, is that they used to say you are what you eat. But a mentor of mine actually adjusted that to not only what you eat, but what your body's able to absorb and benefit from. So nourishment is realizing that you are mind, body, and soul, right? Realizing that you have to be nourishing all aspects of yourself. And when you feel that one aspect is out of balance, then you need to focus on another area, and it just kind of keeps going. There isn't going to be one day where we reach a state of complete balance, but we need to be mindful of the areas where we need more attention at various times of our lives. Nourishment is sleep, of course. Nourishment is movement, creativity. All of those things are going to sustain and fuel us, especially in the journey of life and in the journey of parenting. We're not always going to feel perfectly physically rested, but sometimes there are things that are going to be sources of fuel and energy that are going to make up maybe for that physical depletion or for that exhaustion. And then the third pillar is going to be regulate. So regulate is basically regulating the nervous system, right? So noticing when we are in our mind too much and coming back to the breath, coming back to the body, enacting practices that are spiritual or creative that can help bring us back to a state of calm, a state where we're not in fight or flight, rather in a state where we're supporting our parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system. And each mom is going to have her own way of doing that. So, kind of an example would be maybe feeling overstimulated and just wanting to turn on some music and dance, not think of anything, or prayer or a walk. All of those things can be regulating to the nervous system. In addition, of course, to food and drink and making conscious choices as much as we can. The next pillar in the Mommy Reset framework is anchor. So each day is going to be different. There are some days where we may not have the capacity to maintain our health routines, or all we can do is just get through the day. And other days where we can be more conscious about the goals that we set for ourselves, the habits that we want to achieve. And so how do we create a system? How do we create a system so that our lives are not just crowded and it's not just the tide kind of going with the tide, but feeling more in control and making those specific and achievable goals and committing to achieving them and having a time to do what we say that we're going to do. And some of the techniques that I have found very helpful is one of them is going to be time blocking, as well as setting weekly goals as well as monthly goals. So thank you. Thank you for joining the Mommy Reset podcast. Thank you for following along. I hope it's going to be an enriching experience for you to follow along. I hope to have interesting and engaging conversations and engaging guests. I hope you support this endeavor by subscribing, liking, and sharing. Thank you so much.